All right, let's talk about Netflix. I mean, it's hard to imagine life without it, right? But how did we get here? How did a company that mailed out little red envelopes become this global media giant that completely upended how we watch, well, everything? That's what we're digging into today, the wild evolution of Netflix. You know, every great company story seems to have a legendary origin, and Netflix is no different. It all supposedly started with a $40 late fee. Can you believe it? For a copy of Apollo 13. Now, whether that's 100% true or just a brilliant piece of marketing folklore, it doesn't really matter, because the feeling behind it, that was so real. Renting a movie back then was, let's be honest, kind of a nightmare.
And this really lays it all out, doesn't it? The old way versus the new idea. Think about it. The whole Blockbuster experience. You had to drive to the store, cross your fingers that the new release you wanted wasn't already rented out, and then you had that nagging voice in the back of your head, rewind the tape, return it on time. It was a whole chore. Then you've got the Netflix pitch. Just click a button. The movie comes to you. Watch it whenever, return it whenever, no stress. It was a total game changer because it put you, the customer, first, not the store's inventory.
So this really became their first mission. Chapter 1 in the Netflix saga, taking on the tyranny of late fees. Okay, so here's the key thing to get. When Netflix first showed up in '98, their big idea wasn't really the technology. I mean, mailing DVDs wasn't rocket science. The real genius was in fixing the customer experience. They looked at everything that made renting a movie annoying and decided to just get rid of it. And at the top of that list, you guessed it, those awful late fees.
At first, they were pretty much just a Blockbuster by mail. You'd pay for each rental. But that wasn't going to cut it. To really make a dent, they needed something bigger, a better red envelope.
And here it is. This was the masterstroke. In 1999, they rolled out the subscription model. Think about how radical this was. One flat fee per month, get as many DVDs as you want, no due dates. And, the killer blow? Absolutely no late fees. This wasn't just a new feature. It was the weapon they were going to use to take down a giant. It was a totally new way of thinking about the business. But, you know, this brilliant idea didn't exactly set the world on fire overnight. Nope. In fact, just 1 year later, the whole company was teetering on the edge of bankruptcy. And that desperation led to what has to be one of the most famous, or maybe infamous, meetings in business history. So picture this. It's the year 2000. The dot-com bubble has just spectacularly burst, and cash is disappearing fast. Netflix is bleeding money, so Reed Hastings, in a last-ditch effort, flies to Dallas to meet with the Goliath of the industry, Blockbuster. The offer was right there on the table. Buy us. For $50 million, we'll become your online arm. We'll be Blockbuster.com. And how did Blockbuster respond? They didn't just say no. They literally laughed them out of the room. Can you imagine? They just saw this as some tiny, insignificant internet fad. They couldn't see the freight train that was headed right for them. That single moment of arrogance has gone down in history as one of the worst business decisions ever. It was pure David versus Goliath, and Goliath had just made a very, very big mistake. That rejection, it changed everything. It lit a fire under them and kicked off 2 decades of just constant, high-stakes evolution. As you can see here, they go from the subscription model to launching streaming, then they take the huge leap into making their own shows, and now they're even getting into ads. This timeline isn't just a series of dates. It's the DNA of a company that is obsessed with blowing up its own successful business before someone else can. All right, so their next big move was a huge one. Maybe their most painful pivot ever. They decided to bet the whole farm on a future that wasn't even here yet, shifting from physical stuff, the DVDs, the atoms, to pure digital streaming, the bits. And this quote from Reed Hastings really tells you everything you need to know about how he thinks. He said the company was named Netflix, not DVD by Mailflix. I mean, think about it. Back in 2005, mailing DVDs was making them a ton of money. It was working perfectly, but Hastings could see the writing on the wall. He just knew that physical discs were going to die, and he was determined to be the one to kill his own cash cow before anyone else got the chance. But that forward-thinking strategy led them straight into a PR nightmare. Remember Quickster? Oh man, in 2011, Hastings decided to just rip the Band-Aid off. He split the company in two. You had Netflix for streaming, and this new thing, Quickster, for DVDs. The problem? If you wanted both, which a lot of people did, your price basically doubled overnight. People were furious. The backlash was, well, it was swift and it was brutal. And Wall Street? They hated it even more.
The stock price absolutely cratered, dropping 75%. I mean, look at that. Everybody, and I mean everybody, thought Hastings had just killed his own company. It looked like a total disaster, but he didn't blink. He was completely convinced that this incredible short-term pain was the only way to survive in the long run in a world that was going to be all digital.
So they somehow managed to survive that self-inflicted wound. But right around the corner was another huge threat. The movie and TV studios, the very companies Netflix was paying for content, started to realize, hey, wait a minute. These guys are becoming our competition. To survive, Netflix knew they couldn't just be a middleman anymore. They had to start making their own stuff.
And they didn't ease into it, no. They went all in. We're talking a $100 million bet on one show, House of Cards. And get this, they committed to 2 full seasons without ever seeing a pilot episode. Nobody in Hollywood did that. It was an absolutely insane gamble. This was either going to make them a real Hollywood player, or it was going to be the thing that finally broke the company.
But here's the thing. It wasn't a total shot in the dark. This is where Netflix unleashed its new secret weapon, data. See, old-school Hollywood runs on gut feelings and executive taste. Netflix ran on algorithms. Their data told them that tons of their users loved movies by David Fincher. It told them people couldn't get enough of Kevin Spacey, and it showed a huge overlap with people who had watched the old British House of Cards. So they just connected the dots. The data practically screamed, "Make this show." It was still a huge risk, but it was a calculated one.
And boy, did that bet pay off. It was a massive hit. But the real revolution wasn't just the show. It was how they released it. They dropped the entire season all at once. And just like that, they gave birth to a global phenomenon, binge-watching. Think about it. For 50 years, TV meant waiting a week for the next episode. Netflix killed that overnight. The whole game changed. It was no longer about who tuned in on Tuesday night. It was about making you so hooked that you just had to click next episode.
And that brings us right up to the present day. Because now, the story has flipped. The little startup that was laughed out of Blockbuster's office, they're now the king of the mountain. They are the Hollywood establishment. And, with great power, comes a whole new set of problems.
Suddenly, they're not the only game in town anymore. The world they helped create is now full of hungry competitors. You've got giants like Disney Plus and HBO Max who have taken their toys, their content, and gone home to start their own parties. That means for Netflix, the days of just growing and growing without a care in the world are over. Now Wall Street wants to see profits, not just more subscribers. And that pressure is forcing them to do things they said they would never, ever do, like adding commercials and, yep, cracking down on sharing your password.
And this is where the story gets really interesting, right? There's a huge irony here. The company that was born from hating late fees is now the company that gets mad if you share your password. The company that sold itself as this premium, ad-free haven now has ads. The ultimate disruptor, the David who took on the giant Blockbuster, has pretty much become the new Goliath.
So it all leaves you with this one big question. For its entire life, Netflix's biggest enemy was itself. Its greatest strength was its absolute willingness to destroy its own successful business to make way for the next one. They killed their DVD business for streaming. They risked their streaming business to make their own shows. But now that they're at the top of the food chain, who is their biggest enemy? Is it Disney? Is it Amazon? Or is it the possibility that they've gotten too big, too successful to take the same kinds of risks? Have they lost that willingness to tear everything down and start again?